All righty then, let's get started. I'd like to call to order the Wednesday, April 19th meeting of the Sandy Springs Planning Commission. Sam, you ready for announcements?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Reed Haggard,
I am here.
Robin Conklin, Elizabeth Kelly, Dave Nichols, here. Andy Porter, Andrea Settles, here. Karen Tralovich. Here. Okay, I'll go ahead and read the announcements regarding the deck room and the procedures. The Planning Commission's duty is to review and provide recommendations on applications for legislative review, including text amendments, comprehensive plan, character area maps amendments, zoning map amendments, rezonings, and conditional use permits. The petition will be heard in the sequence listed on the posted agenda. Following are some of the rules and procedures for this part of the meeting. The applicant and all those speaking in support of the application will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present the petition. The applicant may choose to save some of that time for rebuttal following the presentation by the opposition. The opposition will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present this position. Since the burden of proof is upon the applicant will be allowed to make closing remarks provided time remaining for the original allotted time. Staff will keep track of the time for both sides. Those called to speak will be in the order that the public comment cards were received by the planning coordinator prior to the beginning of tonight's meeting. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and if applicable, organization before beginning their presentation. The demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outburst, or dialogue when the person is speaking. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will expect to receive. The applicant shall not submit material to the Planning Commission during the meeting. All materials should be submitted to the Community Development Department at least 30 days prior to scheduled meetings for inclusion in the normal distribution of packaging to the Commission. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I have a meeting agenda for Wednesday, April 19th. I think everybody up here has a copy of, which looks fine. We have one case for this evening. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Made by Mr. Nichols, seconded by Ms. Settles. All in favor? All right, so that meeting is set. The agenda is set, excuse me. We also have an agenda meeting minutes from the March 22nd Planning Commission meeting, which was similar to tonight, but we deferred that case, but we had public comment, and this looks fine as well. A motion to approve that. Moved by Ms. Kelly, seconded by Ms. Tralovich. All in favor? All right. So therefore, the meeting minutes from March 22nd are approved. So, Samantha, will you call the first case?
Sure, Chair. We have PC 2023-0001, CA 23-0001, 6110 Bluestone Road, also 135 Hildebrand Drive, also 51 Sandy Springs Place, a character area map amendment from Conservation Parks to the City Springs. This was deferred from the March 22nd, 2023 meeting, which will be presented by Matthew Anspa.
Thank you, Sam, and good evening, Planning Commission. Great to see you all. Sam mentioned we have one case for your consideration and recommendation. It's character area map amendment CA 23-0001. This request is for the city-owned properties located at 6010 Bluestone Road, 135 Hildebrand Drive, and 51 Sandy Springs Place. Staff recommends approval. Again, the request from the city is to amend the character area map for the 3 lots to go from recreation area /park to City Springs character area. Here we see the character area of the sites highlighted in teal to the left and the zoning districts of the sites to the right. The only proposed amendment for tonight deals with the map on the left character area. Take note that the character area being proposed for the lots is represented on neighboring lots in the lighter blue color. That is City Springs character. Recreation area / parks is in green. To be very clear, the properties which host the Heritage Sandy Springs Paint House, the park, and Heritage Green or Entertainment Lawn are not being considered for any changes. Here we see the aerial image showing the existing conditions with City Walk to the south and Sandy Springs United Methodist Church to the west. The slide shows street views of each of the 3 sites. The temporary police maintenance facility is on the left off of Hildebrand, the Heritage Building in the middle off of Bluestone Road, and the parking overflow at the corner of Sandy Springs Circle and Sandy Springs Place. Considerations from staff prompting the proposed amendment are largely to correct a perceived error. The historical zoning for the sites have long been office and institutional, which is consistent with the existing physical development at each site. None of the sites are park and conservation from the physical standpoint, but rather developed and serve as sites for commercial and civic uses currently. Additionally, the sites that are privately owned surrounding and in the vicinity are of the City Springs character area, which is the proposed character area from staff we have now. And with this, the amendment would reinforce the existing and planned character of the site and support the vision of the Next 10 comprehensive plan. So with that, staff suggests a recommendation of approval for this application.
Thank you, Matt.
Yes, sir.
For those of you that were here last month, we went through this process, and we went through this process that we're getting ready to again, which is public comment. I would just ask that there's probably several people that want to speak, be as brief and concise and to the point as you can be, but we look forward to hearing your comments. So with that, I'll open up the public comment section of this case, and we've got some cards, I assume.
Yes, we have one card here today. We have Alan Panzer. And he is in the opposition.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Alan Panzer, 5 Braymore Drive, Sandy Springs. I speak for myself. I want to make that clear. I don't live at Bluestone, but I live in Sandy Springs. I've lived here for over 20 years. I've moved 4 times in the same zip code. I love this city. I want to stay here for a long time. I come to speak in opposition to this recent request to change the parcels to City Springs from their present conservation status. I'll try to be brief. I had a lot more, but I will take heed to what you said. You asked to change, I thought it was 4 lots on the map and call them mistakes or errors, but in further reading, it was really 3 lots that you need to change, and I ask you to consider that these weren't mistakes. The reason why is that area, the entire area that you saw on the map, is the namesake of Sandy Springs. It's why we're called Sandy Springs. It's the original site of the springs, that whole area, not the area carved out, not the area that's blue and not green. It's where our city comes from. And perhaps the first lot that I saw is a little house. And perhaps the people want it to be conserved. The founders or the people who created the map in the first place wanted it to be conserved because it's nearly 3/4 of a century old. And maybe whatever vision that there is for the future, they wanted a small piece to sort of remain, a 3/4 of a century old home to just stay. And then there's what I still refer to as my BMW repair shop. My last 3 cars were serviced in that space, and they were great. And I know things happen, we progress, and now the BMW place doesn't exist anymore. And I used to be able to drop the car off in the morning and walk home and wait for a call and pick it up. And now I got to drive down to Buckhead to a place that's twice as busy, twice as expensive, take an Uber back, wait for a call, take an Uber back to pick up the cars. Not asking for sympathy, that's the way things go. But I noticed that wasn't being asked to be changed. That wasn't conservation. And that's really important because it sort of belies this idea that it was an error. Because if it was an error, the people who created the map wouldn't have carved that out. They knew, okay, that's a functioning business. We can't call that conservation, so we won't. So they didn't. But they called the house and that parking lot, the sort of undeveloped little plot of land. And the funny thing is if they would have come to the city and just said, we want those 3 plots of land to be rezoned, City Springs, I don't think I'd be here. I don't relish this. I don't think I can't speak for them, but I don't think anybody would be here. It's that 4th house. It's Heritage House. Now, I understand you want to call that City Springs, and I couldn't figure that out because I heard they want to build a museum, and I'm all in favor of the Anne Frank Museum because I understand that's what it's going to be used for. I'm Jewish. I love the fact that Eva brought the Anne Frank Museum here to Sandy Springs in the first place. I've been to the Anne Frank House Museum in Amsterdam. It's quite moving. Here's the thing. Between 1 million and 1.5 million visitors go there every year. And it's really small. It's smaller than the Heritage House that exists there. So the idea that we're going to build a big museum to commemorate Anne Frank, it just doesn't sit right. We've got a beautiful little museum on the other side, the Payne House, that doesn't seem to be being used. I don't think it's been open since before COVID. So maybe that could be the Anne Frank Museum. Again, just throwing ideas. But the idea that you're going to tear down a beautiful house, and it's not me saying beautiful. I pulled up a few things. Here's what the Atlanta Journal-Constitution said, specifically about Heritage Hall. They said the Heritage Building, or maybe you're calling it Bluestone, they called it the entire area, but they particularly called out the building as one of the 9 unforgettable places to hold your wedding rehearsal in Atlanta. That's the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. If you don't like them, go to Explore Georgia, their website. Heritage Sandy Springs Museum and Park is a nonprofit that builds community through the preservation and promotion of the historic and cultural identity of Sandy Springs. Heritage Green is the home of the original springs for which the city is named, a tiered outdoor entertainment lawn, the Heritage Sandy Springs Museum at the William Payne House, and, quote, a state-of-the-art, recently renovated facility for special event rentals. Lastly, one of the most popular venue sites for the entire web, Event Hub, talks about Heritage Hall this way, the building that they want to tear down. Completed in fall 2011, Heritage Hall is part of a 3,000 square foot indoor facility with an on-site catering kitchen, private dressing room, and spacious outdoor veranda. The rustic elegance of Heritage Hall's decor blends seamlessly with the historic gardens and is the ideal event space year-round. I'm going to repeat the key phrase. The rustic elegance blends seamlessly with the historic gardens. We've all seen it before. We have a nice, quaint little neighborhood. Somebody one day knocks down a house, and the next thing you know, 18 months later, 2 years later, there's a big 4,000 square foot mansion sitting between a 1,700 square foot split level and a 1,500 square foot ranch. Private property, God bless, do with it what you will. It never looks right, though. It just doesn't. It's an eyesore, no matter how pretty the building is. It blends seamlessly. It's 4 acres. It's not that much to conserve. For all it's worth, I ask you to reject this plan. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Panzer. I just want to clarify one thing, Mr. Panzer.
Yes, please.
You made reference to the house. When you say the house, you're talking about the heritage building, the building.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
all
okay,
of what I
yeah,
referenced.
okay.
Everything I referenced was
Okay.
specifically
Okay,
Heritage Hall. I should have said Heritage Hall.
it's okay.
Apologies.
Chair, we have a next one that's in support with concerns. We have Bruce Morris, if I'm saying that correctly.
How many do we have, Sam?
These are the only two for
Okay.
tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for allowing us to join you tonight. I'm Bruce Morris, here on behalf of the more than 100 owners of the Bluestone condominiums located at 6105 Bluestone Road, many of whom are here tonight, seated to my left, your right. Our owners
in the
are...
blue shirts?
Pardon me?
In the blue shirts?
The blue shirts.
Okay, I just want to make sure. All right.
A few in black who didn't get the memo. Our owners are supportive of further development surrounding us, but want to make sure that that development protects our quality of life. By law, the proposed charter amendment, quote, must not have a significant adverse impact on property in the vicinity of the subject property, end quote. We are in the vicinity of the subject property, and any change in its character will affect us. As I mentioned to Mr. Ansbach at the beginning of this meeting, we don't oppose this change, but we do oppose what it could lead to. Ideally, before allowing the proposed amendment, we'd like to see the intended development project plans so that we could have a sense of what this change in character would mean. This would include a clear description of the property's use, not just its classification, as well as a traffic study analyzing its effects. Less than ideally, we'd like to have assurance that the changes will respect our quality of life and specifically protect us against overdevelopment, unreasonable traffic conditions, noise levels incompatible with residential living, the taking of our property by eminent domain, and reduction of green space, which the change from CON to CS will do if the redevelopment of the heritage site expands the current developed footprint. The conservation's parks character area and zoning of these parcels was not an accident or mistake, as has been cited as the change's impetus. It was a decision to preserve green space around the Sandy Springs. That green space is one of the major factors that attracted all of us to living in the Bluestone. A change from CON to CS is about as extreme as you could ask for, especially as it might affect green space. In addition, as it is now, entry and exit from our Bluestone driveway is difficult. It will be impossible without the reorientation of the proposed Anne Frank entry. In addition, we already currently are suffering a shortage of parking both on our property and street parking. That said, we support development. We'd like to see conditions placed on any redevelopment of these parcels to limit the lot coverage and building heights and increase the required tree canopies and building setbacks to at least try and preserve the green space feel of the area. Redevelopment should enhance the broad community's access to the Sandy Springs Heritage Site Park. We know that while it is likely that this body, as well as the City Council, can take whatever action it wishes to take, please know that we are monitoring the development and zoning process. We are organized. We are committed to being involved and staying involved. We have a vested interest in Sandy Springs and intend to protect it. Many of us are the original Sandy Springs pioneers. We moved into the Bluestone 20 years ago when there was nothing else here. What we ask for in your consideration of what you do now and in the future, we ask to be respected and protected by including us in the planning and considering our concerns before plans are finalized. Simply stated, all we want is a voice and to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Is that it?
That's all I have, Chair.
All right, thank you. With that, I will close the public comment section of this case. I do want to ask Ms. Smith, who's here tonight, because I believe you met with this group within the past week or so. Kristen Smith is the Assistant City Manager and addressed some of these concerns Mr. Morris just brought up. Is that correct?
Yes, we had a great meeting last week. I think we met for about an hour and a half, and we had a great group there for that meeting. We talked through a lot of those concerns, and I hope that that helped this group better understand, the intent of what we're trying to do, and certainly is something that we will be happy to continue to do as we go throughout this process to make sure we continue engaging directly with them as well.
And I want to make sure that I'm correct and that we all understand is that this is the very, I shouldn't say the very beginning, but this is the beginning of a process that will have many more meetings. This is not the finalization. This is just a changing of the character area map.
Yes, that's correct. So any rezoning would have to come before this body and, of course, have another two community meetings, public hearing here, public meeting before council. We'll also be talking with the public about the development plans. We'll, of course, be meeting with the Bluestone Group as well. They are a key stakeholder in all of these conversations. So there will be lots more opportunity for public engagement throughout this process.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any discussion from commission members or questions that you want to ask either of staff or of any of the speakers, or any comments? Anyone? No?
I'll just make a comment that we all live in the city as well, and it's very important to us that our communities are protected as we can do so. We certainly have the best interest at heart. I know the mayor and city council, I've gone to enough meetings and I've watched and read enough that it is the intention of city council to have this be the place that we moved for the reason we moved here. So I appreciate your comments, and I do feel like you are heard as you just were told, and we will do our part to make sure that any community meetings are made available to everyone in this body and anyone else that has an interest in it.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Like Mr. Panzer, I've lived here for a long time. I've only lived in, I guess I have lived in 4 Sandy Springs residences during this time, so we're tied. I moved here in the early 70s and undergone a lot of change. Bluestone being an example of part of that change. I mean, that was a groundbreaking development at the time that it was approved by the Fulton County Commission back in 1999. And we've watched a lot of changes go, and I think the quote was, it's no longer an overdeveloped suburban area, but instead an underdeveloped urban area. And whether you see that or believe that or not, it's changed from the bedroom community that I remember when I first moved here into Fortune 500 companies, Pill Hill, Georgia 400, and a lot of things. So a lot of changes are going on. But I do trust that this group and staff and the mayor and city council are all under the same concept of doing what we feel is best for the city of Sandy Springs and for the residents such as us. So with that, a motion on this case.
I'd like to make a motion. It is under case PC 2023-00010, CA 23-0001, 6110 Bluestone Road, 135 Hildebrand Drive, 51 Sandy Springs Place, for a character area map amendment from Conservation Parks to City Springs. I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Ms. Settles. Is there a second? Any, a second by Mr. Nichols. Any discussion about that motion?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I wanted to add that what we've done with this particular item, this would typically go forward at the April 18th Mayor and City Council meeting.
You mean
the next one.
May?
May. So what we've done instead, because we hope that we will have a development partner selected at the June 6th Mayor and City Council meeting, we wanted to do that all at one meeting so that everybody wouldn't have to attend multiple meetings. So this will be heard at the June 6th Mayor and City Council meeting. So I did want to point that out just so everyone is
Right.
aware that this will not follow our normal schedule because we wanted it to be more convenient for people.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that said, we have a motion and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, then the motion is approved and will be heard by the Mayor and City Council in June. Thank you, everybody, for coming out from the Bluestone. Do we have any new business or ongoing business we need to discuss that we know of? Michelle, anything?
No, nothing.
All right. Matt? We good? Okay, thumbs up on that. Great. With that, motion to adjourn? So moved. Seconded? All in favor? Okay, we are adjourned.